everyone, this is Mary Kwiatkowski with RHAP, getting ready to speak with the second place finisher of season one of Destination X. If you haven't watched the show yet, make sure you go and finish the finale, check out our recap coverage, and then come back here so we can talk with Peter. Peter, oh my gosh, trying not to fangirl a little bit. If I was on the bus, I would have instantly known who you were. So that's pretty
What's
cool.
going on? Good to be
So,
here.
so obviously this was a pretty big finale. Not to go ahead and jump to the saddest part. Second place, so close.
Ah, I know. I know. I wish I could have changed that introduction for you, unfortunately. But yeah, still, all that, being said, it was, still one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Was right there, gave it my all. So, can hang my hat on that. But Rick was definitely very, very deserving and incredible competitor. It was cool to work alongside him, for such a, the entire really show that I was on, pretty much. And, we both, had our highs and our lows and we were able to help each other and really happy for him.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like you and Rick bonded pretty quickly. Did that feel pretty instantaneous to you that you guys made that alliance and that connection on the bus?
Yeah, I going on, I immediately just felt, and Janae too, we both, I felt this obvious just target on our back. And, it made sense. I would have been feeling the same thing if I was a prior contestant, having someone join kind of later in the game and, other alliances and you made friends with other people at that point in the previous episode. So I kind of just knew it was going to be really critical to find someone quickly and not let too much time, continue to go on without getting someone from the inside, not just Janae, but someone
Hmm.
that's been there for a bit. And with Rick, he it kind of just worked out really just organically and naturally. Kind of felt like he, my initial impression seemed like he had been ostracized a bit for whatever reason from everyone else, hadn't really found his footing with anyone. And I think we were able to take advantage of that, and that natural chemistry just kind of developed and immediately could just see that he was obviously very intelligent too, and that was only going to bode well for all of us, trying to take this alliance as far as possible. So I think, yeah, it was just uh, we kind of lucked out that it just kind of formed so quickly.
Yeah, so you definitely had that strong alliance with Janae and Rick. Do you feel like you connected at all with anyone else in the game?
Yeah, I did. It's funny because you go on a game like this and an experience, and it can obviously get heated at moments, and it's very competitive. There's a lot of money on the line, and emotions can kind of flare. But I felt very close, with a lot of the people on the show, especially Biggie. I think Biggie's such a cool dude, one of the most hilarious guys I've ever been around. The guy just has, one-liners one after the next coming out all day long, just, constantly laughing. I think I was just so impressed with him too, that he had truly never been out of the country before. And
Yeah.
so all of his knowledge come from just studying before and getting in the books. And I was just in awe of that because I was the exact opposite. All of my experience and knowledge had come from actually, traveling and going to visit some of these places. So he was very deserving to be in the top three there. And yeah, definitely. But I would say obviously Janae and Rick I was closest with for sure.
So, talk a little bit about how your experience both being on other reality shows and also as a pilot helped you in this game.
I would say, experience from previous shows, Bachelor stuff that didn't really have any
Really?
type of yeah, believe it or not, and I've realized that that's not my strong suit, and much more of a gamer. And I didn't even know that I was this kind of way until I had the opportunity to do traders, and I really just found my footing. I loved it. I'm so competitive, and it's such a cool. These kind of shows are so cool because you're able to really just disconnect from the
Hmm.
outside world and immerse yourself in this game, and that be your total focus. How many other times in life do you really get to do that? Not really many times, and so I really really enjoyed that. So traders was definitely some good experience. Just I think learning the value of alliances of working together. Yes, the show is different in the regards that only one can win at the end, but still, I just immediately from the beginning realized you can't win this game alone. Even that being the case, you have to work along with other people just because the nature of clues and how much information is actually being shared, it was so limited. You're gonna have to share stuff. Yes, at some point you're gonna have to go 1v1 if you can make it to the end, and that ended up happening with us. Um, but I think the traders definitely I benefited from some of that experience and just the competition aspect of it. And with the flying stuff, I definitely was able to pull. a couple things from my career. This most recent episode before the finale in Monaco was
Hmm.
really fortunate to recognize some of the peaks that we were at that the other players really didn't know, but I had flown into Nice quite a bit. So I had recognized those peaks, understanding kind of where we were or we must have been from kind of following the sun and tracking the sun on our voyage from Venice, going west for I had in my mind just a general speed that we were going at. So trying to compute, okay, we might be this distance, this general direction, being able to compare things like that and just grab from my tool bucket. It definitely benefited me. Try to use a little bit of celestial navigation that helped maybe just a little bit at night. You had to have a clear, view of the sky. You had to be able to see the North Star. But if I could generally gaze, okay, we're probably around this latitude and what major cities are around that latitude, guessing longitude. So there was definitely a couple factors where the career helped me for sure.
Do you feel like it was difficult coming into the game after it had already started? Like, did it feel like there was a barrier there at all?
Yeah, it was a pro and a con. The obvious con was there's a target on your back. These are new people. Who are they? Can we trust them? They're coming in late. We've already had relationships form. The pro, obviously, you're that much closer to the end, to
Hmm.
the finish line. You were able to, skip over those. I think it was two cities that we didn't do. So I don't know. I would say it was probably actually more though of a disadvantage than an advantage just from the social aspect of the game. Again, lucked out a lot that I was able to get close with Rick to kind of minimize that
Hmm.
disadvantage. But uh, yeah, I would say it probably hurt more than it helped.
It really felt like, especially once you started working with Rick, that you came in kind of guns blazing, like all strategy. Let's get down to it. Was that your plan going in? Did you have a strategy going into the game?
I had done a lot of studying up on famous landmarks and certain clues, flags and currency and just cultural things that could maybe lead me to guessing a certain type of city. The show did not necessarily make it they didn't make it that easy at all. In fact, it wasn't like you were ever in a crowded area where you could see a license plate or you could really get a good view of the flag. Everything was very calculated and they only let you see what they wanted you to see. So the studying up aspect really didn't benefit me that much. But I've just always been a very strategic, competitive player, even before I started doing some of these gaming shows. And that's just me. Nothing has ever been personal. It's just I am there for one reason, and it was to win. And we can be best friends after this, but in the moment, I'm going to do my absolute best to kick your butt and come away the winner.
I was sad that you didn't get to have any time overlapping with Josh in the game. Would you have known Josh or recognized him from anything?
No, so believe it or not, I really don't watch that much reality TV, if any. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I don't. I actually met Josh for the first time. I was with Bananas and we had met from the traders. So we had become good friends and we were in Miami. I think it was Art Basel actually. And we were at this spot and Josh comes up to me, introduces himself and had told me at that point. I didn't even know he was there. He had been on the show at that point yet, but told me the whole thing, how he'd been on the first couple of I think first episode, and it was too bad because he seems like a great guy. I guess he's Cuban as well, so we share that, and yeah, it was cool to meet him in person, but didn't quite know him before.
Yeah, that's a bummer. So considering the fact that you haven't watched that much reality TV, but you have shown an interest in the shows, would you be interested in doing any of these other types of shows?
I've always been kind of a yes man, and I've been very fortunate. A lot of this stuff just really kind of fallen on my lap. I haven't really looked for it, and I've been very fortunate to have had the opportunities. I've said yes to them, and lucky that with my job, I get a lot of off time to be able to take advantage of that. I would say, I know it's not on, I actually don't think it's on anymore, but Fear Factor that was one show I religiously watched. I remember with my mom growing up, we'd always watch Fear Factor with Joe Rogan. I love that show. Try if I had to pick one, I would say just for the adventure of it all would be Survivor
Hmm.
that'd be top of the list for me.
Yeah. So considering the fact that this was not a dating show, there was a bit of a showmance in the game. Did you give either of them any advice coming from
I
someone
don't
who had been in that boat before?
I don't think they wanted my advice, but it's so funny. There was two relationships, I guess,
Hmm.
that have come out of the show, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. But how cool is that? Specifically for Allie, it was I think yeah, we joined just as that showmance was kind of developing. with her and Shane. Could kind of see that in like the early works, and then just off time, off camera, it was cool to see them just really spending a lot of time together, getting to know each other. I think it benefited them for a while too, just having like that was an ultimate level of trust, right? When you're kind of pursuing a relationship with someone, you really know you can trust them. So that was a huge bonus for them. Um, and then yeah, I never, never would have predicted Allie and Mac getting together after the show, but Mac was just an absolute sweetheart. I thought Mac would have won the show if I wasn't able to take
Hmm.
her out in that
Yeah.
1 week episode. Truly, heart of hearts, thought I think she would have won. So that was why I had to do it. But um, yeah, I guess they definitely won. Allie and Mac, and it seems like Shane's cool with it too. Haven't
Yeah.
chatted too much with him about it, but happy for him.
So that was one of your bigger, more dramatic moves, was taking Mac out of the game pretty much single-handedly. Did you consider any other options, or were you pretty much set on that?
I was going Shane the entire like I
Oh,
remember
really?
vividly when Jeffrey goes and he in such dramatic fashion he comes on the bus and he tells us, okay, the person closest, I think I'd guess 1450 was that year. And it was just a random guess, right? He says 1450. I'm like, wait, that's me. I was the one to guess that. Holy shit. And he's like, yep, Peter is the closest. So now he's gonna and you didn't know that power was coming.
Hmm.
So then he tells me that. And so immediately at that point, we had kind of been beefing. Shane and I was such ridiculous stuff, right? But I guess it makes good TV. And so, it was on the show and um we've been beefing a little bit. So emotionally, I was like, okay, this is my chance. I get to take out. There's Louis making a little appearance. What's up, Luber? We yeah, so I was emotionally in the moment. I'm like, okay, this is my chance. It'll feel so good. Like kind of have like the final say and everything. And then it was like a split second right before it was about to come out of my mouth. I had a thought. I was like, wait, what am I doing? Like I have this may opportunity may never come up ever again.
Hmm.
We know like Mac is extremely intelligent. She had traveled so much. I think it's soloed around Europe for months and months and months. I was like, this is really the only shot I have to do this. Like as much as my heart wants to go somewhere else, I have to make the smartest play here to give myself the best chance to win. And it was a last second switch up and I felt horrible doing it, but I think she understood. It was really a sign of respect how highly I thought of her as a player. And you're in it to win it, so you got to make the right calls.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, obviously it was a pretty dramatic finale with first with Biggie leaving. Was there anything we didn't see from that kind of moment of you and Rick knowing, hey, this is the time when if it's going to be the two of us at the end, we need to take Biggie out here?
So I actually haven't seen it yet. I have to, yeah. Well, I guess this is sorry, this is the area after, but going back to my memory of it, we start playing that trivia game,
Hmm.
and Rick and I hadn't had any chance to just we just had a a common understanding, I think, since the beginning that we were in it together. I think there was maybe a slight worry of because I remember you actually know what now I remember on the yacht when Rick had to confess that he had misguided Biggie. I remember him
Hmm.
feeling really bad about that. It was
Yeah.
very awkward. And I remember for a split second, I was like, shoot, is this where we've gotten each other really pretty much to the end? Maybe there's only so much room left for an alliance to really carry its weight here. Would he possibly switch over now to kind of like make amends for what he kind of did to Biggie? That crossed my mind for a second. And then when it was time for that to kind of show itself, I realized that no, he's still got my back. I got his back and I was very grateful for that to have that help. And then, man, that you talk about heart rate and just stress. That was probably the most stressful part of the entire show for me was that final tiebreaker with Biggie. I had no idea what the answer was. I'm just shooting in the dark. Biggie had no idea. And when
You're
I hear
both a
his
little bit
answers,
off.
we are so off, but to then have it by one, I'm
Yeah.
like, you can't get any more dramatic than that. And I remember almost like passing out, just so relieved and so excited. And I'm like, how many times you have, you're that close to $250,000? It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was wild. And then at the end of the game, we saw you kind of go on this little scavenger hunt with a lot of different clues. And you seem pretty confident in a lot of them. And then you get to the end and you end up choosing Tower of London. What went into your thought process for picking Tower of London?
When I got my clues given to me, it was the first one was Queen Elizabeth. There was a picture of her, so immediately I thought, okay, something with her. And then I saw money, the coins and the money. I thought the hourglass was a red herring. I thought maybe I wasn't connecting that to anything, and I thought maybe that was my false clue. So I kind of took that out, and I was going off the money and her, and I'm like, hey, where's all her jewels? Where do they store her jewels? And that's where Rick, and we had talked after, he had thought the same thing, and so immediately I went to Tower of London. It's where she keeps all of her valuables. And unfortunately, we were wrong on that. But yeah, I didn't realize until after the fact that I wish I wouldn't have seen Queen Elizabeth as my first
Hmm.
clue because I think that set me down a wrong path. I never associated her with Big Ben.
Right.
Apparently, I guess the tower is called Queen of Elizabeth Tower. I didn't know that. I thought the whole thing was Big Ben. Um, but yeah, hey, it is what it is. That's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, that's hard. I definitely from the show was, we're as viewers trying to piece together the clues ourselves, and then of course sometimes the clues that we get in voiceover are different than the ones that you guys got. But
Okay.
it definitely left me wondering. I'm like, how did we get to Tower of London? Okay, interesting. Yeah. So, I guess because you haven't seen that, have you? I don't know if you've seen all the other episodes. If there was any other moment in the show that you felt like sad that they didn't show.
I think it's funny with again, it's obviously TV, so it has to be edited in a certain way. But really the beefing with Shane had nothing to do with Allie or anything. It was we were just talking to each other about he was convinced that we never went to the moon, and I was telling him we did go to the moon, and so we got in, he has a lot of conspiracy theories that he's very passionate about, and we've smoothed it over since. But honestly, it had nothing to do with Allie. It was we were just and we had talked, I guess, about it on off days, so it couldn't make it into the show, but. Yeah, he was convinced we didn't go to the moon, and I was very passionate that we did.
That's that's very funny. That adds a whole different light to the whole show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me, Peter. Do you have anything else coming up that you want anyone else to check out?
Um, no, nothing out right now. Just yeah, enjoying the summer, flying a bunch out of LA, and yeah, we'll see if another opportunity comes up. But still got to get that monkey off my back. I got to win one hopefully. So we'll see if that happens.
You're getting closer.
Getting close there. I know this one's done. I'm not gonna lie, but it was incredible. So
All right. Thank you for chatting with me.
all right, take care.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.